All right.
Are we
We're
live?
live. We are live. Yeah. We're live and it's Monday and it's the first day of May, which is
Where did April go?
I don't know. I have no idea where it went, but I'm like not ready for it to be this late in the year. Like I like I kind of still want it to be a little, I don't know. I'm kind of like my mind is just blown, honestly, because we're in May, which is so crazy because next month will be halfway through the year. But anyway, but besides me being bugged out by that, okay, well, it's Physical Wellness Monday.
Yes. Yeah.
Uh, yeah. So we've got an interesting conversation to have today about meal timing,
Yeah.
right? That you were saying we had talked about a little bit before a while ago, and now we're revisiting it so we can dig a little bit deeper to find out how we can maximize our health, right?
Yes. Mhm.
And to get the maximum health benefits by when we're scheduling our meals, which is really interesting.
Yes. So I know probably like 2 weeks ago, I went off on a tangent. It was one of the weeks when we were missing you. I went
Oh,
off talking about like when people eat, right? And I said
mm-hmm.
something along the lines of, we've been trained to believe that we have to eat 3 meals a day. Um,
Mm-hmm.
have breakfast by this hour, lunch by this hour, dinner or supper by this hour, which I realized that there's a difference between dinner and supper. But like when I was growing up, we
Yeah,
used to,
supper's a little earlier, isn't it? Supper's
yeah,
like 5 and dinner's
yeah.
like
But
7. Yeah.
like, so we used them interchangeably in our house. It was like, it's dinner time, it's supper time.
Oh,
Like,
it's not the
well, to
same.
me, they were interchangeable. I just knew it was the last meal of the day, right?
Mm-hmm.
A tangent saying basically that if we should be a little bit more in tune with our bodies, listening to our bodies. So if we
Mm-hmm.
wake up and we're not hungry right away, we shouldn't feel forced to eat something right away. Although if we're eating how we should be eating, if you've
Mm-hmm.
slept complete 8 hours, your body has fasted for 8 hours. When you wake up, you will be hungry. But if you're not getting a full 8 hours of rest, or you eat heavy, I'll get into that. But if you eat heavy before you go to bed, you may not be hungry when you wake up in the morning.
Yeah, there's a lot of people who are not hungry when you wake up. I mean, I know I'm like that a lot of
Yeah.
times. I'm not really hungry when I wake up. I also wake up super early, but
Mm-hmm.
I also wake up really early. But, it takes me a while. Like these past couple of days, I haven't been getting hungry until like the afternoon, actually. And
Wow.
so so I mean, I know like it's very different for different people, but I'm also of the same mindset. When I do my health coaching with people, it's like, don't force yourself to eat when you're not feeling it, unless there's something going on where you're not getting, those cues, right? Like if your brain is just not telling you like, oh, I have no idea when I'm hungry. And then in that case, that's a different conversation, I feel like at that point.
Yeah. So there's a whole science dedicated to meal timing, and it's called chrononutrition, right? Chrono time nutrition, right?
Yep.
So basically, this study looks at when people eat and how it impacts your energy level, the rate of digestion, how your digesting, and your overall health. Like, how does spacing out your meals or timing your meals times of the day affect the individual? Well, I'm not going to get into the results or what the consensus is, if you can even call it, but I'll get into that later. But I will just say spacing your meals throughout the day is best. And when I say meals, it's not always a full plate meal. Sometimes a meal can be a snack. Basically, the times that you're eating throughout the
That you're
day.
eating or taking in calories.
Yes.
Because that also includes things like shakes and smoothies, which people don't,
Yes, it does.
right?
Getting protein, you're getting nutrients in those smoothies and shakes. And I know there's people that juice their food, right? I don't know if I could do that, but there are some people that do juice their food. So
yeah, I used to do that. Yeah. Oh yeah. I've tried it all, right? Like in my day.
But no, that's good. So you've had experience in it. So when you're speaking of it, you're speaking of personal experience, like how it
Yeah.
with you or for you.
Yeah. I like it for short periods of time. The thing is that like if you're doing like a juice cleanse or something like
Yep.
that, and there's so much of that food that goes into making that one little juice. And so you're getting so much in it, but you wouldn't be able to normally eat that amount, right?
Right.
So you can do that, but you also, there's a way that you got, which I'm not going to get into, but there's a way that you have to do it so that, your brain like activates. And so, like, there's a whole thing to that too, but we're not going to get into that, but yes.
Maybe a topic for
Short
another
periods of time. I wouldn't recommend it to like take all your calories in that way, or to even do that for a long period of time, because for a number of reasons that we can maybe get into in another conversation. Yeah. Not today.
Curious. Not, I mean, because to me, it's like, well, I know my brain wants that chewing action, right? At some point, I know it's going to be satisfied, but it's like, at some point, it's like, when you chew your food, the saliva gets all of the digestion going. So your brain is telling your stomach, okay, get ready for intake. But if it's not doing that motion to stimulate, the saliva production,
you're already kind of getting into it. That's why when you have it, you have to kind of like switch it around, like you got to kind of like do that action and all that stuff. But there's this saying that says like, chew your drink and eat your, wait, hold on. Chew your drink and eat your, okay, I'm messing that up.
We're gonna have to look up that saying.
Okay, drink. Okay, here it is. It's like chew your drink and eat your. I literally just had it. Drink your food. Jesus. Whew, it's not even that early. It's not even that early, but like my brain is somewhere else. Drink your food and chew your drinks. Jesus. Why was that so hard?
Drink your food and chew your drink.
Yes.
Okay.
Have you heard that?
No.
Mm-hmm.
I did. I would have saying. Wow. This is the first time I heard it, but yeah, like
I'll give reference to where I learned it. So recently I was reading, well, actually, you know what, in our community, right, we're reading Jay Shetty's Think Like a Monk. And so it came up as something that one of his like monk teachers had shared with him, right? And so the idea is that, you're gonna chew, like you chew a whole bunch of times some food, right? What happens to it? It becomes like mushy. It starts to change form, doesn't it? So it starts to change form. So you want to chew it enough time with that kind of mindfulness that, that at the time that you swallow it, it's like liquidy, right? So you want to chew it that many times. So just chew, be mindful, think about how are you eating this? How are you doing that? And again, that's going into mindful eating, but then it becomes like, okay, now in this way, I can conceptualize it like, okay, I'm drinking my food in this way. Yeah. And then when you chew, right, your drink, it's the same thing. I'm swishing it around. I'm kind of like, I'm making like, this kind of motion. I'm also thinking like, how does that taste? My saliva has enough time to start to like initiate the digestive process. Like there's all these things that happen. And so in that way, you're chewing your drink. So anyway, it slows things down is the point, so that you can be mindful of it. But again, there's also these physiological responses, like our body just responds to that action anyway. And so, and so there's benefits all around. Anyway, that's where I heard it from. But yeah.
May look into that.
It took me like 5 minutes to get that out, but that's what it is.
No, I mean, it's something I didn't know about it. There may be viewers that didn't know about it. And so that's knowledge, right? Thank you for sharing that with us.
Yeah, of course. I think it's interesting. It's a good way to do it because one, I think also you don't eat as much when you do that, right? Like we overconsume so much here in America. Like when you're eating mindfully, you just don't do it as much. You're like, okay, I'm good. Oh, my body has time to think about what's happening. Oh, okay, all right, I'm fine. I digress. Okay, so going back to
that's all in alignment. We said that to say that it's important that regardless of how you're intaking this food, that you're spacing it throughout the day. And another reason is because your blood sugar, whether you have any condition that is that affects your blood sugar level or not, it is important to maintain a steady blood sugar level throughout the day. So you're not feeling like super high and then crashing once it comes right down. And so if you're feeding your body, throughout the day at intervals, then you're more likely to maintain that steady state, or like a sweet spot for your blood sugar level, right? So there's some pros to this timing your meals, and then there are some people that are like, absolutely not, and then they have their reasons for it. So one of the good reasons for doing that is the energy it provides, right? So if you're eating, okay, say whatever hour you wake up, and within a certain time frame you're eating, and then okay, well, I'm not going to let more than 3 hours go before I refuel my body. You're going to maintain your energy because your body's going to get used to, okay, every 3 hours or so, I'm going to get some fuel intake. So that's going to help maintain your overall level of energy, right? And it's actually good for your digestion, right? So those enzymes and all of those, the bacteria, they're always going. But when you're feeding it, right, it's going to help to make sure you're not getting those air pockets in your belly. You're not, getting other issues with the digestive system, because it's like, it's now on a rhythm. It's like, okay,
right.
This much time to digest, and now it's broken down. The body's going to excrete what it needs to excrete. Now it's going to refuel it again. I'm going to extract the nutrients I need, and it's just going to keep things moving, instead of, you go a long period of time with absolutely nothing, and your body's like, come on, I want something. You're like, I don't want to eat right now. I want something. I don't want to eat. So then you overeat, or we overeat when we extended periods, not listening to those cues. And it's also really good for like weight management, because you're more conscious of what you're eating. So instead of eating those rigid, X amount of calories for breakfast, X amount of calories for lunch, X amount of calories for dinner, right?
You're going to say supper.
Yeah, I was going to say it. But like I said,
dinner or supper, whatever floats your boat.
Whatever time you're eating, right? But in like other countries, that is the smallest meal of the day, and it makes sense.
Yes, in a lot of countries, it's the smallest meal of the day, and the largest meal of the day is breakfast.
Oh, I was gonna say lunch.
Well, so when I was in Costa Rica, we have one of our World of Wellness retreats is in Costa Rica. And so one of the things about Costa Rica is that they're a part of the Nicoya Peninsula is a part of the blue zone, right? And the blue zone is where, right? You remember we were talking about this a while ago, right? Blue zone is where they live like to be 100 plus regularly. They've had some kind of like cultural food or consumption or just way of living that has extended their life, where like 100 plus is like the expectation, right? And so there's 9 regions in the world where this is true, and the Nicoya Peninsula in Costa Rica is one of them. So I did a lot of like, how are they living life? Like I just did a lot of observation and a little bit of like, okay, just open, and not really a formal study, although I would love to go back and like just really just engage with that, experiential learning. But I'm like, or maybe that's something that we'll add to one of the retreats in Costa Rica. But
I was like, okay, I'm listening.
Right. But going there and just seeing like, okay, what's going on? But one of the things is that the heaviest meal is in the morning, because, if you think about it, you need to fuel for your whole day, right? And so let's say you're going to go off and, I don't know, work a long shift, or you're going to do something, you're not going to have a chance to really, you want to have enough fuel for your body to say like, okay, we got enough calories to get us through without it starting to, eat, like you go into like a catabolic state and start to like eat on, other, adipose tissue or like fat tissues and things like that. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like if that's your goal, okay, all right, I got you. Like get a little fat here, I got a little extra here you can have for energy. But if that's not the case, it's like not where we don't want to end ourselves being starved. And now we're like, our body's feeding on muscle and all that stuff. So they fuel heavy, rice and beans and like plantains and tortilla, like, you know what I'm saying? The whole 9. I mean, it's interesting, but then after that, it's like, okay, your meals start to get smaller and smaller and smaller. So you're absolutely right. By the end of the day, that's like, so, but I guess that also makes sense in some places. You're saying that lunch is the heaviest meal. And that can make sense too. Like, depending, I guess it goes back to what are the energy needs for that person, and like what is their lifestyle like. So you got some time to do that, it's like, all right, cool. If not, then it's going to be breakfast, because you ain't got, another opportunity until supper or until dinner to have some food.
It's true. It really does boil down to the individual. That's number one, right? There is no one size fits all. So I should probably have inserted that in the beginning, but I do want to say that timing meals is not for everyone. And if you do decide to time your meals or you want to try it out, always consult your healthcare provider, right? We are providing knowledge, but we don't know you as individuals. So the people, I mean, you know your body best, but it's always best to seek advice or counsel or, speak with your healthcare provider before you make any drastic changes to anything that you're intaking, right? Taking into your body any kind of food or the timing, whatever that is. And know that there is no one size fits all. So I will talk about some of the strategies, but just keep in mind that these strategies are not for everybody. And there are certain individuals, certain lifestyles, certain conditions that may make timing these meals a little bit difficult for people. So just mind. But I mean, it's a thing. It is a thing,
Yeah.
But one of the downsides of like timing your meals, right, is that it's some people take it to the extreme, right? And they could be thinking, oh no, it's been 3.5 hours. I haven't eaten. I need to eat something right now. And so now you're getting stressed. You're getting anxiety, right? You're like,
right.
For just something because you're more concerned about the time than actually what you're eating, right? You're just like, oh, it's been 3 hours. I need to eat something. What's in front of me? Probably not something I want to eat, but I need to eat because it's 3 hours, right? So that's one, like super rigid, right? And another thing is, some people are, what's the term I'm looking for? There are some people that are more sensitive to eating disorders. And so if that, a person has those characteristics, this could exacerbate that. So, they might get super strict, like, well, I'm not going to eat I'm going to do, 7-hour stretches and I won't eat any 7 hours.
And then when I do eat, it's going to be a little tiny thing.
Yes. Yep.
Or it's going to be everything in the house, right? Depending upon like what extreme you're on. Absolutely.
So just be mindful that if there are people that are sensitive to that, it could just exacerbate those conditions. And then like, just think about our everyday lives, right? We often lead very busy lives. There's a lot of tasks, a lot of things we're responsible for, a lot of places we go. How it's not that simple to say like every day, all day, every day, I'm going to stick to this very rigid timing of every 3 hours. I'm putting something. If you're
it's unrealistic for most of us.
Right.
Absolutely.
I mean, you might have work during the day. You might have school. There are places where you can't eat, right? Like if you're at a career where you're not, you can't eat in front of patients or customers, clients, whatever they are to you. How are you going to do this? So that timing your meal with that rigid schedule might not work. And also, again, if you have certain health conditions where you have to maintain a certain sugar level is one. If you have issues with digestion already, it might be best to just stick with such a rigid timing of, I have to eat every 3 hours. And then you have to remember, you're not getting up in the middle of the night to eat every 3 hours, right? And so it's not so rigid, but some people do take the extreme. But I will say there have been studies on optimal times to eat these things. Like if you are going to time your meal, and the overall belief is that when you eat breakfast, it should be within 1 to 2 hours of waking.
Okay.
Now that I get it. I understand it.
To jumpstart the metabolism?
Yes.
Okay.
And remember.
Okay, go ahead.
Ideally, you have just fasted for 6 hours because you were sleeping, right? At least hours. So if you go the 6 hours while you're sleeping, you're not eating. And then you go another 2 hours of not eating. That's a whole 8 hours that you haven't eaten. And that's why they say within 1 to 2 hours. And that's not to include the people that sleep a full 8 hours. And then they would hours before they eat, that's 10 hours that your body has gone without anything. So it doesn't say what time of the day, it just says within 1 to 2 hours of waking that it's better to get something in your system to fuel, ideally something with heavy with nutrients, protein.
Right.
You want something that is protein packed, because it's going to slowly be digested and keep you fueled or energized throughout the day. So they all agree breakfast should be eaten within 1 to 2 hours of awakening. I guess that's probably the best way to. And then they also
nobody's correcting you on your grammar now.
But another thing is that so we have the morning time, and then they don't really say much about when lunch should be, but they do say the max time you should go if you're timing your meals is no more than 4 hours between consuming something. So you wake, eat within 1 to 2 hours. Your next consumption of some kind of food needs to be or should be within 3 to 4 hours of the start of the last intake of food.
Yeah, I think it's so interesting to me because, this is a modern concept that you have to eat at certain times, or you need to have 3 meals a day, or you need to do all of that, right? Really, historically, it's whenever you get your hands on some food, right? Like, you got a chance to eat. And you was walking around and growing and, foraging and fishing and, hunting and all this stuff. And like that kept, you active, right? Yeah. So there's a certain level of activity that starts to interact with and jumpstart your metabolism, even if you haven't eaten. When you think about this with people who are like doing intermittent fasting, or people who are, they're just like, I'm really not hungry. I don't want to force myself to eat. Like, this is a highly individual thing, and this is why I always bring it back to mindfulness and being aware of your energy, because of your energy and you do it. Ideally, you would want to catch, an energy or a blood sugar drop or like an energy drop. You will want to catch that before it happens, so you don't feel like crap. And then you're like, oh, and I gotta like reboot, you know what I'm saying? So you want to catch it before that, but knowing that not everybody's going to feel comfortable with waking up and then eating like 3 or 4 hours. And there is a science to it, but there's also, right, like debates around that. Like what is actually the thing that, that we should be doing? And so if you can have an intelligence about how you are feeling energy wise, that's going to be helpful. And if you can start listening to that, right? Just listening to your body. And again, why I've brought up mindfulness multiple times today, because if you are mindful of that, you can start to take the cues from your body to say like, oh, I need to eat. It's time for me to do that because I know what that feels like in my body. But if we're just, like you were saying, busy going here and there and everywhere, it can be very hard to miss those cues because our brains are focused on other things. Yes. And our bodies are focused. Our bodies are like, okay, let's just try to get through it, right? And we're not like the last thing on my mind when I'm busy is like eating something. I'm like, okay, I got to remind myself, let me eat something,
It's true, right? Like we're so conditioned, not all of us, some of us are conditioned to like, that is the last cue you listen to. If there is a task, a deadline, you do what you got to do to get that done. And your health, what you're fueling your body with, that'll come later, right? You sacrifice that to accomplish.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate. It really shouldn't be. But one thing I did want to say, right, because you said the first thing that you should eat is protein. So I wanted to see if we could talk a little bit about that, right? Like, what are some protein options? I know I had mentioned in Costa Rica, they're eating like rice and beans. It's a complete protein, those two together, right? And so that could be an option for somebody who is a vegetarian or a vegan, rice and beans, right, in some kind of way. There's some dishes that pair that with tortillas or with chips or or whatever. So thinking about like, what are some ideas? I know some people who just get like a shredded chicken
Yes.
and they're just going to have the chicken by itself. Like, okay, I'm going to have this protein. Or some people who, you'll see the bodybuilders with all the eggs and they're just
Eggs.
eating eggs.
That's the first thing I had is eggs or meat, just lean meat.
But not, can we just say not sandwich meat?
No, that's processed.
That's why I want to say that. That's why I want to say that, so that folks who are watching this, meat, but not lunch meat. Do not get that processed sliced meat.
Yeah.
Because that is not, I mean, you'll see people do that. And same thing with bacon, right? You'll see a lot of people, especially like on paleo diets, like, oh, I'm going to have my turkey bacon and all this stuff. But those are processed meats, and they also are high in sodium. And we also just kind of want to steer away from those things, because in this particular group, in this community, we're going whole foods, non-processed more often than not.
Yeah, that's what we're aiming towards, right? There are challenges, sometimes financial, sometimes location. There's sometimes just life that we're not always going to stick with those things. But the goal is to, if you indulge in something that you used to eat, every, that's okay. That's okay.
More often than not. That's the rule that I go by. More often than not. It don't mean that, from time to time I'm not having whatever.
Right.
But more often than not.
We're real. We're human. Right. And so like every now and then our brain is like, hey, you remember you used to eat those bagels, you used to have the cheese, you used to have, you know what I'm saying? And it's like the egg, and it's like, and then you'd wash it down with something super sweet. Yeah. Every now brain says, hey, try it again. Or there's the other part of your brain that's like, yeah, nah, we've been feeling so better, right? Like we have so much more energy, right? We're not sluggish throughout the day. We're able to complete more tasks. We're focused, feeling weighed down by what we ate, in the morning time. So just be mindful of that. Processed meat lunch meat is meat, but it's processed meat. So like Coach Brandi said, there's a lot of sodium. Maybe we'll talk about that one of these days. Or just like the overall process of how they get to it. I mean, I think if people
I think it's worth a good talking through, because how many people think that eating turkey, bacon, and egg whites is healthy?
They don't realize the process to get to that form, right? That we'll eat. There's a lot of steps that go on before that. Maybe we will talk about that.
Yeah, I think we could talk about it one of these days. Yeah.
But yes. Yeah. Protein packed breakfast with, lean meats, or, the vegetarian options with the beans and the rice. The I mean, that could be a cultural thing too. Like to me, I wouldn't think to have that for breakfast, but there are some too, and that's fine too. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, what I like to do is half of my plate automatically with vegetables. So that could be, half of the plate with lettuce, and then the other half with rice and beans. And then because I am not a vegan, I'll also put some eggs in there, and then make that a thing, right? Like that kind of, or it may be some fruit on the side, right? Like that's a complete breakfast meal that I would have, right? Yep. I don't necessarily go for the tortilla chips, but if I'm feeling like doing a little Latin America, I'm like, by all means, let's bring it in. By all means.
There it is. There's one other strategy that I wanted to put out there, which I think is super important. And I know that I am guilty of this. Maybe not so much nowadays, but I was, especially in, pharmacy school, is eating late, right? So your last meal should be about 2 hours minimum before you go to bed.
Well, remember, I was doing a thing where I was, before when it was reasonable, and it wasn't, and the sun wasn't setting, entirely too late. I was eating before the sun set, right? So now, now it's a little bit better because the sun is setting like around 8.
Yeah.
Or, but before, right, it was setting at like 5, and it was so hard because I wouldn't even finish like work until after then. And then I'd be hungry, and I'm like, yeah, we gotta do something different. So now I can go back to that. But that was for a long time my rule of thumb. Like, listen, during certain day, like whatever daylight savings time period that we're in right now, like this period right here, I'm like, yeah, as long as it's still light outside, I could start a meal. But if it's dark outside, I'm not going to do it. And that was a little bit of an experiment for me there. We were talking about this before. I think you were asking me like, why are you doing that? And I was like, I just want to kind of get back to like the olden rhythm. I just want to kind of see what happens.
Yeah, but see, when it's daylight savings, when it's like the fall, winter, it does get dark at like 4:30.
Yeah, no, that's hard. That's hard. But right now it's good. Right now,
yeah.
I can restart that experiment, because what it does is it does position me. And I'm saying this because, maybe somebody out here, this would be a better marker. It does position me in a way where I'm not eating right before I'm going to bed, because I'm eating while it's still light outside. The sun might be setting, but I'm still eating while it's light outside. And then I'm not going to bed for a couple of hours after.
Yep. Yeah, I think it's between 2 to 3 hours before your bedtime is when you should finish your last meal. And that's to allow that your body to rest and digest, right? While eating. And that's why if you do that and you wake up, say you eat 2 hours before you go to bed, say you sleep a whole 6 hours, and then you wait another 2 hours before you eat breakfast, right? So now we're at 10 hours that you're eating. And that's why they say it's important to eat your breakfast within 1 to 2 hours. But when you go to sleep with a lot of food on your stomach, sometimes that affects your sleep, right? Sometimes you wake up in the middle of the night and your body is like, yeah, you should not have eaten that before you went to bed.
Yeah. You wake up and your food is in your throat. Ugh.
Yeah. Now I'm ready to get out. So when
your body will let you know.
It will absolutely, every time. It doesn't fail. Your body will let you know, like,
that's right.
Yeah, no, you ate too late. But like when I was in pharmacy school, like I would do pharmacy school from 8 a.m. to 4. Then I would work from 4:30 to 10, right? And so when I get out of work, I would want something to eat. And like I get home by like 10:45. I would eat probably by 11, take my shower, and then go to bed. And you know what I mean? But like that was too late. But I did it.
I used to work around the clock, multiple jobs, and I would get out of my last job at like 4 a.m. and I would eat like 4:30, 5 a.m.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. And then it's just what it is, right? Because that's the thing. Like, what if you have third shift? Then you get off of work, you're not supposed to eat. Like, how does that work? You know what I'm saying? You gotta go based off of your life and how you eat. If you get off of work, and the way I see it is like, you get off of work and it's late, and you can't go to sleep without having a little something. Have something, but let that be a small meal.
Really
small little meal with just a little taste, because the truth of the matter is that, do you really need more energy to go to sleep? That's the real question. Like, do you really need that extra energy to go to sleep? Because if we start thinking about food as fuel, calories as energy, right, which is their true meaning of the metric anyway, calories as energy, then we can think about it like that. Do I really need more energy to go to sleep, or do I just need a little bit to like quiet my stomach down? Okay, so make it just a little bit. Don't have the whole full meal, and then when you wake up in the morning, maybe that's the time where you have your larger meal, or depending upon how your body's metabolizing the energy and how you're feeling your energy levels.
Yes, I agree.
You agree with that? You agree with that?
I think that it's the most of, if you didn't get anything else from this, that I want everyone to know that this is an individual decision, and you have to look at your age, your health status, right? Like, and if you have any questions, like your lifestyle, your goals, there are so many factors to consider. But at the end of the day, you have to do what's best for you, the person, and your individual self, right? Like, we're just giving tips, strategies, the research that's out there, the information that's available, and we are sharing it with the audience. And so as an audience member, do your due diligence. That's what we encourage. And so that's what we are here for, to keep us all informed, to help us make those those,
Absolutely.
know what's available.
Absolutely. Is there any homework for our community or anything that they should be doing?
I do want our community to journal or just put in their phones, like, where nobody's really journaling, or not a lot of people are really journaling, you know.
People journal, Ness. You're like,
right.
nobody does that anymore.
Right.
People journal. What are you talking about? I got a couple of journals.
You.
I do. I don't write in them all the time, but I do have some journals. Yes, it's true. People journal.
It's just like when I get information, I like to write out information, or if there's something like a goal, like my goals, I actually write those out.
Yeah.
I don't really do so much reflecting on paper.
So what do you want them to do now?
I would like for them to journal, write down in one day, just one day, the times that they're eating. So they eat their breakfast at this time. The next time they eat something is at this time. The next time they eat something is at this time. And just see if there's a pattern. Maybe do it over 2 days to see if there's a pattern where, wow, every morning I eat and then I wait 5 hours before I put anything else in my mouth or consume any kind of food. But at nighttime, I ate at 6 o'clock, then I ate again at 8:30, then I ate again at 10 o'clock, so just see if there's a pattern that your body is operating on. And if there's a way to maybe optimize that.
Okay. And also, can I add that they should also be tracking when they're having snacks, if they're not currently thinking of that, and also when they're drinking anything that gives them calories.
Yes.
Because we don't think about that, right? But like, there's a reason why we're craving those things. And so, okay, why do we need look, I know by heart because I drink ginger ale so much, 180 calories of ginger ale.
Wait,
why
is that can? That's one can?
Not in the can, in a bottle.
Oh, okay. But is that servings?
Yes, 2 servings, because the can gives you 90, the little small can.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, wait a minute.
You say, why do I need that? Or did I just need the fizz and the bubbles? Like, what was I looking for? Okay, all right, cool. So y'all got that community. That's what we're doing. Keep your journal. And let us know how that goes. If you got any insights that you want to share that with us in our Dollar Growth Club community. And let's be mindful. That's what, like 10th or 20th time I said that. Mindful.
Oh,
okay. Can I say it again? Mindful.
Yes.
Mindful.
Say
mindful.
It. Yes.
Mindful. Hey.
All right.
Mindful.
All right. Come
on. It's time to get off. It's time to go. All right.
As always, we'll see you guys all next week. I think I would like to talk about the processed meats this week.
Okay, let's do it.
Okay.
Let's do it. Somebody's gonna be mad at us, but let's do it. That's all right. I'd rather you be mad and
informed
and informed. Exactly. I'd rather you be mad and informed than blissfully ignorant and ruining yourself. You know what I'm saying? So anyway.
Yes. Okay. I'm excited because that was when I found out, man, I was like, wait, what? How did I get to this?
And I'm telling you, like, we are a bacon loving society, aren't we? So, but the facts are the facts, y'all. The facts are, we can say the same for the hot dogs. We can say the same for the hamburgers. There's a lot of things that you want to say, okay, we love this, but we don't have to eat like we love it. We could just have it every once in a while.
Once in a while is okay.
Once in a while is all right.
We're going to get into it. I'm going to say, because there are reasons why people do eat those types of foods, right? A lot of times it has to do with their accessibility to other foods, healthier options, right? There's a whole behind that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Please.
We don't have to
listen. We already know. We already know about that. There's a lot that goes into it. So we have to find a plan, or at least think about before next week, right? Think about how do we make sure to communicate. All right, y'all, we're saying maybe don't eat hot dogs every day for dinner and don't have bacon every morning for breakfast, but here's something that you can do instead as an alternative, right? What is that thing? What does that look like? Right? Because that's real. It is a
Yeah.
lot easier to get some of those, especially on government programs and all these other things. And especially depending upon where you're living and what, what your grocery store has available for you. It is a lot easier and a lot more affordable to get those things than it is to get other things. So like what alternatives can we do that are realistic, on budget,
Yeah. Yeah,
that
because there are some people that, they have to make things stretch, right? They got to make the meal stretch. And so we're going to be mindful of that when we talk about that, and also give alternatives that are keeping in line with making sure that, you're able to provide for whoever you need to provide for. I think that's really important too. Right.
I agree 1,000%. Okay, cool. So we got it.
Right.
We got our topic set for next week.
We
Y'all
do.
come ready and hungry for the knowledge. All right. Enjoy the rest of your
Yeah.
day. Dr. Ness, thank you so much.
Thank
And
you.